Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into a story that has stunned not only Russia, but the entire world. New footage has emerged showing a massive explosion on the Crimea Bridge, also known as the Kerch Bridge, a structure that has stood as one of the most significant symbols of Russia's control over Crimea. The moment the footage surfaced, it spread across news outlets and social media platforms, leaving people in disbelief and raising serious questions about security, strategy, and the future of the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine. The bridge, which connects mainland Russia to the Crimean Peninsula, has always been more than just a transportation link. Since it opened in 2018, it has stood as a major symbol of Russia's annexation of Crimea, an assertion of dominance, and a key military and supply route. It was personally inaugurated by President Vladimir Putin, who drove a truck across it in a show of pride and control. For many Russians, the bridge represented permanence, proof that Crimea was, in their view, now inseparable from Russia. But this new explosion has shaken that illusion, proving that even the most fortified structures are vulnerable in modern warfare. The footage that has surfaced is both shocking and symbolic. It shows a bright flash followed by a powerful detonation beneath the structure, reportedly targeting one of the main support pillars of the bridge. Within seconds, flames and debris erupt across the span, lighting up the early morning sky. Analysts say the magnitude of the blast suggests the use of high-power underwater explosives, likely planted or guided by specialized drones. Ukrainian intelligence sources have hinted that the operation was months in planning and executed with precision, aiming to strike at the heart of Russia's logistical and psychological stability. Russia's immediate reaction was one of confusion, followed by damage control. The Kremlin quickly moved to downplay the extent of the destruction, releasing statements claiming the bridge remained operational and that traffic would soon resume. However, satellite images and videos from witnesses painted a different picture, showing heavy smoke, disrupted traffic, and sections of the bridge temporarily closed. Russian social media channels were flooded with speculation and frustration. Some prominent military bloggers accused the government of failing to protect the nation's most critical infrastructure, while others demanded harsh retaliation against Ukraine. For Ukraine, the bridge has long been a legitimate military target. Ukrainian officials have consistently argued that Russia uses it to transport troops, ammunition, and supplies into occupied territories. The Security Service of Ukraine confirmed responsibility, stating that the operation was a carefully calculated response to continued Russian aggression. They described the bridge as a logistics artery for war crimes and celebrated the attack as a strike against occupation. For many Ukrainians, this explosion symbolizes defiance, proof that their country retains the ability to hit deep behind enemy lines, even in areas Russia considers untouchable. Internationally, reactions have been mixed. Western nations largely refrained from direct comment on the operation, but emphasized Ukraine's right to defend its territory. Military analysts across Europe and the United States highlighted the significance of the attack, noting how it demonstrated Ukraine's evolving technological capabilities and the growing importance of asymmetric warfare. Meanwhile, Russian allies like Belarus and some commentators in China framed the event as an act of provocation that could escalate tensions further. The balance between military success and geopolitical consequence hangs delicately in moments like these. The timing of the explosion is also crucial. It comes at a period when Russia has been tightening its grip on occupied territories, while struggling with supply chain difficulties and mounting international pressure. The bridge serves as a vital route not just for military logistics, but for civilian supplies, fuel, and economic connectivity between Crimea and Russia. Any disruption here strains Moscow's ability to maintain its hold over the region. The psychological impact of seeing flames engulf such an iconic structure cannot be overstated. For Russians, it strikes a nerve of insecurity. For Ukrainians, it is a moment of empowerment. The footage also underscores the role of information in modern warfare. Every frame of the explosion carries meaning beyond its physical damage. Ukraine's decision to release the video publicly sends a clear message, not just to Russia, but to the world. It says that no symbol of occupation is beyond reach. In contrast, Russia's media apparatus is trying to control the narrative, emphasizing resilience, quick repairs, and national unity. State television showed images of work crews and engineers assessing damage, portraying an image of calm efficiency. Yet online, citizens continue to question how such a breach was possible despite Russia's extensive defenses around the bridge. Observers are already comparing this incident to the 2022 explosion that partially destroyed part of the bridge, which also shocked Russia and prompted a wave of retaliatory missile strikes against Ukraine. This new attack appears even more sophisticated and targeted, suggesting significant improvements in Ukraine's operational intelligence and sabotage capabilities. It highlights a growing trend in the conflict: the use of precision, low, cost, high, impact strikes to destabilize larger, better-equipped adversaries. The symbolism of targeting infrastructure rather than soldiers transforms the battlefield into one of perception and endurance. Inside Russia, the political ramifications could be significant. Every time the bridge is struck, it exposes vulnerabilities that challenge the government's claim of total control. The Kremlin has built much of its wartime narrative on the idea of strength, stability, and inevitability. Seeing a prized national project in flames undermines that image. It raises difficult questions among ordinary citizens. If the bridge cannot be protected, what else is at risk? These doubts, even when unspoken, can ripple through society, eroding confidence in leadership over time. For the Russian military, the attack presents logistical nightmares. The bridge has been one of the primary routes for transporting equipment, fuel, and reinforcements to Crimea and southern Ukraine. If damaged significantly, supply chains could be disrupted for weeks or even months, forcing Russia to reroute via less efficient and more vulnerable land corridors. That slows down operations and adds strain to already stretched resources. Military planners now face the dilemma of defending multiple critical points simultaneously, from the Black Sea Fleet to the railway lines and fuel depots feeding the front lines. From Ukraine's strategic perspective, this was about more than damage. It was about sending a signal. Hitting the Crimea Bridge strikes both heart and mind. It shows allies that Ukrainian intelligence and operational capabilities remain sharp despite the hardships of war. It reassures the Ukrainian public that progress, though difficult, continues. And it sends a message to Russia. Occupation comes at a cost. This psychological blow of such an attack can be more devastating than physical damage, undermining the illusion of invincibility that authoritarian regimes rely on. The explosion has also reignited discussions about the nature of modern conflict. Warfare today is not confined to the front lines. It extends into infrastructure, cyberspace, and public perception. Bridges, pipelines, power stations, these have all become legitimate targets when they support military objectives. Yet the humanitarian implications are complex. Destroying key routes affects civilians as well. Cutting off access to goods and increasing hardships for those living in contested regions. The fine line between strategic necessity and collateral suffering becomes increasingly blurred in prolonged wars like this one. Russia's response moving forward will be crucial. Historically, after such attacks, Moscow has retaliated with large-scale missile strikes across Ukrainian cities, targeting power grids and civilian infrastructure. If that pattern repeats, we may soon see another wave of blackouts, disruptions, and humanitarian strain in Ukraine. However, repeated retaliations also reveal Russia's limited options, reacting with force rather than preventing future incidents. Each cycle of retaliation and resistance deepens the war's human and psychological toll without bringing either side closer to resolution. In Moscow, officials are already framing the explosion as a terrorist act, promising justice and enhanced security. Security forces are reportedly conducting investigations, searching for the methods used and the possible involvement of foreign intelligence. Yet, despite the rhetoric, the simple fact remains: the bridge was struck again. That is what resonates in the public mind. Even the most loyal voices cannot ignore the imagery of smoke rising from the structure that once symbolized unity and dominance. The event also raises technical questions about defense systems. If underwater explosives or drones were used, it suggests that Russian naval and surveillance defenses in the area were bypassed. That's a serious concern for a nation that prides itself on advanced military technology. The ability to infiltrate and attack such a critical target implies gaps in detection, coordination, or readiness, all of which undermine Russia's claim of technological superiority. For Ukraine and its partners, it demonstrates how innovation and adaptability can offset conventional disadvantages. Beyond the immediate conflict, this incident ripples across global geopolitics. Allies of both nations are watching closely. Western defense analysts will study how the operation was conducted, seeking lessons for future hybrid warfare. Meanwhile, countries that maintain ties with Moscow must reassess their confidence in Russia's stability and control over its territories. For nations dependent on Russian military exports, the sight of its infrastructure under attack weakens the image of reliability that underpins those relationships. For the global public, the footage itself becomes part of the war's story. People everywhere are drawn to visual evidence, seeing something tangible amidst the fog of propaganda. The blast footage evokes emotion, anger, pride, or fear, depending on one's perspective. It turns the distant conflict into something immediate and real. Every explosion caught on camera becomes not just a tactical event, but a shared global moment in the digital age. As the investigation unfolds, speculation continues. Some sources suggest that underwater drones were guided by satellite and detonated remotely, while others point to possible collaboration with Western technology or intelligence sharing. Ukraine has neither confirmed nor denied the specifics, maintaining a deliberate ambiguity. This uncertainty keeps Russia guessing, forces it to stretch its defenses, and amplifies the psychological effect. Unpredictability itself becomes a weapon. For the people living in Crimea, the explosion adds to an already tense atmosphere. Many residents, caught between loyalty to Moscow and quiet resentment of the occupation, now face increased security checks, travel restrictions, and fear of reprisals. Life on the peninsula grows harder with every escalation. For them, the bridge was not just a symbol but a lifeline for goods, transport, and hope of normalcy. Its damage disrupts daily life and deepens the divide between the occupied and the occupier. At its core, This story reveals how power, pride, and vulnerability intersect. The Crimean Bridge was built to project strength. Now it projects fragility. It embodies the contradictions of this war, a conflict fought over territory, identity, and symbolism as much as over military objectives. Every strike against it reminds the world that control in modern warfare is never absolute. No matter how heavily guarded or politically sacred a structure may seem, technology, intelligence, and determination can pierce its defenses. As we look ahead, the key question remains: what happens next? Russia will likely tighten defenses, increase patrols, and issue threats. Ukraine will continue to seek strategic opportunities, balancing the line between military effectiveness and international perception. The world will watch to see whether this incident triggers escalation or marks a turning point in the conflict's tempo. What's certain is that the bridge, once a proud emblem of conquest, has become a recurring reminder of vulnerability. The footage of the explosion will remain etched in memory, a vivid symbol of a war that continues to reshape history. It is a reminder that no empire, no matter how powerful, can escape the consequences of its choices. The bridge that once connected Russia to Crimea now stands as a fractured metaphor not just of a damaged structure, but of a broken illusion. Thank you for watching. If you found this breakdown insightful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more in-depth discussions of global events. Let me know your thoughts below. What do you think this explosion means for the future of the conflict? Until next time, stay informed and stay safe.